and the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, a catalyst for change, and by PepsiCo, and made possible by the financial support of viewers like you and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
America marked the 213th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence today with traditional parades and demonstrations over abortion. In Washington, hundreds of school children waving American flags joined dozens of high school bands from around the country in a parade down Constitution Avenue. There was also a demonstration of military maneuvers used by the colonial army, and a U.S. fife and drum corps played outside the National Archives, which houses the original Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution. The Constitution and its role in protecting abortion was the focus of demonstrations in several cities as a result of yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, which gave the states more power to restrict abortions. The largest demonstration was in Boston, where about 3,000 pro-choice activists gathered in front of the State House to protest yesterday's decision. In Annapolis, Maryland, several hundred pro-choice activists faced off against anti-abortion protesters, each trying to shut down the other. Former President Reagan was hospitalized today for minor injuries after being thrown from a horse while riding in Mexico. The president's spokesman said X-rays revealed no serious injuries, and doctors who examined Mr. Reagan reported that he's in excellent condition. The 78-year-old former president was taken to a military base hospital near Tucson, Arizona. It was a historic day in Poland as the Solidarity movement took the parliamentary seats it won in last month's elections. It was the first time since the 1940s that a non-communist group has been able to form a democratic opposition in an East Bloc parliament. Solidarity leader Lech Walesa had a prominent place opposite communist leader General Wojciech Jaruzelski. A Solidarity speaker immediately attacked the communist government for a chaotic economic policy. Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev began a three-day visit to France today. Jeffrey Archer of Independent Television News has this report from Paris.
Mr. Gorbachev never goes abroad empty-handed, according to his aides, and the message he's expected to deliver in France, a concept of a new Europe, home for both capitalists and communists. This is his fifth meeting with President Mitterrand, his second visit to Paris. The formal welcome at Orly Airport was planned well in advance, but the detailed timetable of his state visit has been a last-minute affair. Gaps have been planned in the schedule to allow him time to grapple with the economic and political problems at home that may be behind the look of weariness he wore today. A restrained President Mitterrand is distancing France from last month's Gorby mania in West Germany. In central Paris, a Soviet flag briefly refused to stay upright, and security men perched watchfully on chimney tops as the Republican Guard escorted the Gorbachevs to the Élysée Palace. This afternoon, Mr. Gorbachev saw a demonstration of high-definition television, in the development of which the two countries hope to cooperate.
An unmanned Soviet fighter jet crashed into a house in Belgium near the French border. One person inside the house was killed. Two U.S. Air Force jets began following the MiG-23 when it crossed into West European airspace, but the Pentagon said there was no pilot aboard at the time. The Soviets said the pilot put the plane on automatic pilot and ejected safely over Poland when the plane ran into technical trouble during a training flight. In Hong Kong, two leaders of the democracy movement in China said they had established an organization to carry on the fight for freedom in China. Intellectual Yan Yaqi and student leader Wu Er Kai-shi made a statement on videotape seen on television in Hong Kong and Paris. They said, at present, China is shrouded in silence, but that just means a new and bigger storm is brewing. British Foreign Secretary Sir Geoffrey Howe called on China to take actions to restore the confidence of people in Hong Kong, who were badly shaken by the suppression of the democracy movement in Beijing. Yesterday, he told the people of the British colony they could not move to Britain when Hong Kong comes under Chinese rule in 8 years. We have a report from Hong Kong by Simon Cole of Independent Television News.
Tonight, Hong Kong people again took to the streets in protest. This time it wasn't against Sir Geoffrey, but China. It's a month to the day since the massacre in Beijing, and thousands remembered those who died. At the same time, they were demonstrating their fears for the future of the territory under Chinese rule. They marched to Government House, where the Foreign Secretary is staying, and handed in a letter urging sanctions against China. Though Sir Geoffrey doesn't agree with that, he recognises the need for China to improve its image. He improved his image slightly in Hong Kong by announcing that there could soon be agreement with Hanoi about forcibly returning these boat people to Vietnam. These boat people escaped what they saw as repression. Hong Kong people want the chance to escape from possible repression. Sir Geoffrey himself admitted he'd now be thinking about leaving if he lived in Hong Kong.
I'm sure one would consider it. Of course one would. What we've got to try and do is to reinforce confidence, to try and give people the prospect that that is not the way in which they need in the end go.
That's our summary of the news. Still ahead, teen pregnancy, the destruction of Brazil's rainforest. Historian James McGregor Burns, and a Rosenblatt essay. As we reported, this Independence Day was marked by abortion demonstrations as well as the traditional parades. With the abortion debate given new energy by yesterday's Supreme Court decision, we begin tonight with a highly pertinent side issue, teenage pregnancy. Pregnant teenagers account for more than 1/4 of the roughly 1.6 million women having abortions in this country each year. The state of Arkansas has the second highest teen pregnancy rate in the U.S. Governor Bill Clinton has charged his controversial state health director, Dr. Jocelyn Elders, with reducing those numbers. Steve Barnes of the Arkansas Educational Television Network has this report on her efforts.
When they're pregnant, I consider it a personal failure every time I see a teenager pregnant. And I feel that we as a state, we as decent citizens, are failing our children in our community.
Dr. Jocelyn Elders became Arkansas's public health director 3 years ago. She is waging war on Arkansas's alarming teenage pregnancy rate. In scores of speeches and personal appearances, Elders describes adolescent pregnancy as a disease, destroying generation after generation of Arkansas youth.
I feel it's time for us to get on with it before we lose a whole generation of young people to a very deadly disease, and another generation of young women, and have another generation of 12 and 14-year-old parents. And we know what kind of parents they make.
Do you have any questions?
Elders says this high school clinic is a key to solving the problem. It is one of 11 such clinics the Arkansas Health Department helps underwrite. In the small community of Lincoln, a frightful adolescent pregnancy rate fell 90% in the year after the clinic opened. The clinic provides prenatal care and other medical services, and it also offers free contraceptives to any student requesting them. And that makes Dr. Jocelyn Elders Arkansas's most controversial woman. She does not flee from controversy, but tries to diffuse it. For instance, she arranges for school clinic opponents of the religious right to meet with her personally.
There ain't no class situation here. I'm saying, like that young man said, leave it out of schools everywhere across this nation, not just Arkansas.
Sex education is pornography.
Now, I am convinced that if we go back and we show that there was a time that we didn't have the teen pregnancies, and then we consider what happened back there. Why didn't have teen pregnancies back there? Because they just abstained.
If her opponents hope Elders will retreat, they are quickly disappointed.
I want you to know that I'm not interested in any, quote, sex clinics. We offer much more than contraceptives. If I just wanted to hand out contraceptives, I feel that I, as a doctor, could go to the mall and get a clinic, get her booth, and stand there handing out pills for all teenagers that wanted them that came by.
In a state with a vocal fundamentalist presence, the debate inevitably moves to the political arena. Some state legislators want to amend Arkansas law to prohibit school clinics from dispensing contraceptives.
At the present time, we lower ourselves down and turn them over to their vile affections and let them do the things that maybe the normal body wants to do. But I will not turn those children over to their vile affections.
Virtually all resistance to school-based clinics is rooted in religion. Elders carries her campaign to churchmen. At this meeting of black ministers at Little Rock, her reception ranged from polite to cool to barely civil.
We want to preach about abstinence. We want to teach our mothers to teach about abstinence. But I also want you to stand there and realize that we've got to face some of the realities that are going on with our adolescents and realize that we have to do more than that.
This contradicts what we preach. We preach abstinence. We say abstain, don't do it. But then again, you want us to lock hand in hand with something and say, well, if you're going to do it, we're going to give you this.
You've been preaching abstinence ever since you've been preaching. At least I believe you have. I know my brother preaches that. I've still got a problem in Arkansas. I have 8,000 plus teenagers having babies in Arkansas every year.
I really appreciate the values of the church who say that we just cannot deal with that. It's morally wrong. I don't disagree that it's morally wrong. However, our children are still engaging in behaviors that we feel are morally wrong. And just because they engage in behaviors that we consider morally wrong, I do not feel that we should let it cripple them for the rest of their lives.
Now 56 years old, Joycelyn Elders is one of 8 children born to a poor, rural Arkansas family. There are no pictures of her in childhood. The family could afford none. She graduated from a church-supported black college, then left Arkansas to join the Army. After 2 years as a physical therapist, she used the GI Bill to become only the second black woman to study medicine at the University of Arkansas. At first, she was not allowed to eat with white medical students, but later she would supervise them as chief pediatric resident. After a distinguished career in research medicine, Elders was summoned to government service by Governor Bill Clinton, who saw in her the qualities he felt were needed to attack the teen pregnancy problem.
She knows what it's like to be poor, to be black, to overcome adversity. And she also knows what it's like to have to do some things for yourself. So she understands both what society's responsibility to people is and what people's responsibilities for themselves are.
Clinton acknowledges there have been political repercussions from his support of school clinics and elders. But he says the results are worth the price.
We've gotten more heat on the teen pregnancy front than anything else, but we're doing what's right. There are too many people in this country who've turned a blind eye to this for too long.
Joycelyn Elders is married to one of Arkansas's legendary high school basketball coaches. They met when she became the first female physician to give his athletes their physical examinations.
I thought it was a little unusual for them to send a young lady over, but we could accept that. It sort of disturbed our players. In fact, it created a havoc and pandemonium in the gym for a while, and it took us a while to get them all under one hat again.
Oliver Elders says it is determination that makes his wife effective in whatever task she undertakes.
She wants it done right, and she has a very strong head about herself. She wants it done her particular way, but she'll compromise if there's need, and she'll listen to all sides of it. But when it's all said and done, she'll be a very strong force in what she believes and what she wants.
The Elders, who have 2 grown sons, are at home on a 15-acre storybook spread near Little Rock, complete with fishing pond,